Hello everyone and welcome to my DCS Warbirds update for March 2020. This month saw one piece of rather disappointing news, which I'll cover first, followed by a series of good bits of news. So let's get the bad stuff out the way and then move on to all the good stuff. In the first quarter of 2020, which has just ended with the closure of March, we were expecting the update to the World War II Assets Pack. This update was originally slated for August 2019 by Eagle Dynamics. They subsequently pushed the delivery date back to the end of 2019. And then just as 2019 was coming to a close, we were advised there had been a new planned delivery date of Q1 2020. All of those deadlines have now passed. We are now into Q2 2020. And there's no real apparent sight of imminent delivery of the World War II Assets Pack. We have had responses from 9line on the ED forums, just a very brief one saying that they are still working on the X-ray damage modeling for the AI aircraft. And we have also heard some words on the DCS Vintage subreddit from Nick Gray, promising that they are still working on delivery of this assets pack. It is pretty difficult as a consumer to accept delays to delivery of a product like this. Most of us would not accept these kinds of delays for other products which we buy. I do find it strange that we apply so much leeway when it comes to game product delivery. However, that's a wider consumer expectations discussion that is perhaps outside the scope of this particular video. Suffice to say, we are still waiting for the assets pack. It does look very, very good what they plan to deliver. I just wish we could have it sooner rather than later. Now let's move on to some of the more uplifting news. In March, we saw the release from early access into its full release state of the Focke-Wulf 190 A8 Anton, or if you're a Kiwi, the Focke-Wulf 190 A8 Anton. This aircraft, whilst it is not quite as competitive as the other Warbirds in the air-to-air role, has a very nice set of air-to-ground weapons indeed. I'm going to show you some of that weaponry in action now, and there's also a nice little special air-to-air weapon which this aircraft has, which is ideal for bringing down bombers. whilst we're looking at things being blown up and destroyed, a couple of people on the forums have suggested that during the 2.5.6 open beta releases, which happened during March, that Eagle Dynamics have adjusted the dispersion of the Warbird's guns. This is yet to be confirmed by Eagle Dynamics, but I've had a look at air-to-air gunnery in 3 of the Warbirds, the Spitfire, the Mustang, and the Anton. It is my opinion that if you get your range correct in these aircraft, all of the Warbirds actually have very devastating guns. People have historically complained about 1 or 2 of the modules, arguing that their guns are very ineffective. And I think we can show now that that is no longer the case, provided you get your range and your aiming correct. So we're going to go through a few examples here of me shooting, firstly in the Mustang, then in the Spitfire, and then in the Focke-Wulf. In each of these cases, I'm attacking 2 Mustangs, followed by 2 Spitfires, followed by 2 Focke-Wulf A8s, followed by 2 Messerschmitt 109s. I am shooting from a level position directly behind the other aircraft, so this is obviously not the exact kind of situation you would face when you're shooting at turning and dogfighting aircraft, but I had to control this test as much as possible, hence the shooting from the direct 6 position in level flight. Closing on the first pair of Mustangs then, I'm going to open up on the number 2 here. He's quite close in. This is about 150 to 200 yards, so we'll give him a burst. And that Mustang is now out of the fight. I think I killed the pilot possibly there. So he took 1 solid burst from about 150 yards. We'll close up on his leader now. I would say the lead aircraft's now about 250 to 300. I'm going to get a little bit closer than that. Okay, that's probably close enough. Throttle back and we'll open up here. Nice and close, 150 to 200 yards. Right aileron off. And second burst. So 1 to 2 solid bursts at 150 to 200 yards will take down the P-51s. Let's look at a pair of Spitfires now. And we're closing in on the second one here. That's about 200. We'll just get a tiny bit closer. Yeah, 150. Nice-ish. That's looking really good. We'll hit him. Oh, we'll hit him now. Good burst there. Second burst. And both radiators and the engine gone. He's out of the fight. Second Spitfire now, similar range already. We'll open up as soon as I get a good solution here. That'll do. 1 burst, and both Rads looks like he's out of the fight too. Moving on now to a pair of Antons. .190 A8 Focke-Wulfs. And we've got similar range already. I'll get a little bit quicker here just to close. All right, that's nice. On the Anton. Bring the Pipper in on the fuselage or close to. We'll give him a burst. 1 burst. 2 bursts. Got his aileron. 3 bursts. Wow, this guy's a bit hardier. And I snapped him in half. So a bit hardier, but once we got something, it was pretty catastrophic. I'll sit underneath this one a little bit better. We don't have the giant radiator sections that we have when we're looking at the Spitfire, for example. So you can see the wing profile is a lot smaller from this angle. That's quite good range. I want to close a little bit more into that sort of magic 150 to 200. There we go. Let's open up on this guy. Okay, the second 190 only took a single burst. Now we've got a pair of Messerschmitt 109s. And I'm at a pretty decent range here. Getting nice and close. We want to get to about 150, the beautiful 150 range. Oh, we're closing a bit fast. Throttle back. This might be too close here. One burst. You can see my rounds are landing quite spread apart. They weren't all landing in the same spot. I'm actually too close. I'm too close inside the convergence range. So I'm going to let this Messerschmitt just fly back out to a better range. Right about there. That should be close to convergence. Or closer to convergence at least anyway. And we'll try for the second burst. That'll do right there. Second burst. Still flying along rather well. Third burst. Nailed him. Similar story to the Focke-Wulf. Took 3 bursts. Let's hit the Messerschmitt when the wingtips hit the gun circle edge. About there. Single burst, and he's in. So you can see that getting the range right is pretty significant in terms of whether these aircraft go down quickly or not. If you can get them at the 150 to 200 range, these 650 cals are absolutely devastating. Closing on the first Mustang then, I'm going to open up here at about 250 yards or so. Let's try and get the Pipper on the fuselage. So most of those actually went wide of the fuselage. We're going to close to about 150 to 200 now for a full burst. And there's the Mustang down. So after one solid burst, which came after a short burst, see the Spitfire closing on the first Mustang here, 300 meters behind currently, and just closing inside that deadly range. I'll bring up the icon. That's 200, or between 200 and 300 meters right now. That's about the perfect range to open up in the Spit. First burst, not many hits at all. Second burst just as we hit 200, so changing from 0.2 to 0.1 kilometers, just coming inside the 100s, and that was deadly. Second Mustang now, this is the lead aircraft, and you'll notice that I am firing a bit further out in the Spitfire due to the convergence. We'll get the Pipper there to rest on the aircraft. There we go. And that Mustang has had it. I just dropped the nose there, and we'll give him another blast. He's no longer combat flyable, but we'll just sort him out properly. There we go. Second Mustang now, sitting between 200 and 300 meters back and about to open up on the lead Mustang. Once again, quite a few shots missed on the first burst. The second burst was very effective. Blew the radiator. This engine will stop shortly, and then I finished this guy off with a final burst. Moving on to the Spitfires now, and we'll do the same. We'll try and open up in about that 200 yard range, maybe bring it back to about 150. That's currently about 300. So the default setting on the gun sight will put them at about 300 when the wingtips are touching the yellow horizontal lines on my gun sight. Don't want to get too fast here. Now we're closing, so we'll open up. That's getting close to 200, maybe a fraction more. Gotta get that pipper over here. Come left. There we go. And there's the first Spitfire down. In fact, we chopped his tail section off. Between 300 and 400 meters currently, and closing into that 300 meter mark. And firing just as I hit about 280, 290 meters. So just inside the 300 meter mark. And there's the tail being severed. And that's because we're hitting at convergence. So everything's landing on one point, and that's just completely chopping pieces off the airplane. And we'll close on the next one. This is a good range, probably right on convergence, in fact. And that one completely snapped in half. Hitting them at convergence range in the Spitfire is pretty effective. This is the lead Spitfire, opening up just under 300 meters. This is the right wing being severed and the pilot baying out. Once again, almost hitting bang on convergence. And when you hit on convergence range, it's very deep. That's almost perfect. The 190, there's the A8 Anton disappearing into oblivion. Closing on the 6 of the first of the Antons now, just hit 400 meters distant. This is probably about 350, closing it on 300 in a second. There's 300. So that's about 280, and once again, 270, 280 meters, pretty close to convergence. See you later. Now, I know I reference yards when I'm in the cockpit, and I'm using meters when I'm looking at the externals. That's because I've got the little labels on showing me the actual distance in meters. Yards and meters are pretty similar though, so it's not terribly much different. We'll pick up the next aircraft now, which is the second of the 2 Antons. Solid burst, but I don't know how much of that hit. And there we go. There's separation of the starboard wing. This is the lead Focke-Wulf, already inside 300 meters, opening up probably at about 250 there. And then slipping back and opening up again at convergence range. Once again, there's a wing severed, the starboard one in this case. Moving on to a pair of Messerschmitts now. The final 2 ranges about, oh, it's just closing down to about 200 now, I think. I'm going to throttle back a fraction. Yeah, this is not bad. Let's see if I can hit him around the radiators on the base of the fuselage. Good second burst there. At about 180 to 220 yards or so. And now for the Messerschmitts. Just at 400 meters now, closing up. Still outside of what I would call a good convergence range. That's 300 meters now, so expect to open up in a second. There we go. Possibly inside convergence range here, but the second burst causing quite a lot of damage to either side of the wing root, possibly killing the pilot as well. And then we'll close up a little bit on the leader here. That's looking good. I'd say that's 250 yards, maybe 200 now. A few of those rounds are missing. You can see them dropping low. There we go. And both wings, in fact, separated from the second Messerschmitt. And now the lead of the two Messerschmitts, 250, 260 maybe meters behind. And you can see the bullets actually going either side of the fuselage here because I'm inside convergence range. So I'm not actually hitting the fuselage at all. And then I got enough cannon rounds on either wing root to sever the wings. Fortunately, both of my streams of ammo, one was hitting the right wing root and the other was hitting the left wing root, and both of those wings then departed from the aeroplane. So there we go, that's the Spitfire. If you can get it onto that 270, 280 meter range when you engage, you can really blow aircraft to pieces. So hitting at convergence in the Spitfire is super, super effective. Kind of similar to how we saw the Mustang operate it, is that hitting at range, or hitting at the correct range, is what you need to do to have catastrophic effect. We're in the Anton now, the Focke-Wulf, and we don't have so much convergence problems to worry about in this aircraft. I'm going to get close on this Mustang, look at about 200 there, and give him a burst to the back. And you can see the straight run of the bullets just go straight ahead. We'll try this Mustang at close range, and he's destroyed as well. Let's watch the external views of the Focke-Wulf attacks closing on the trail Mustang of the pair. And I get really close before I open up on this one, less than 200 meters in fact. Very quickly moved on to the lead aircraft, and less than 200 meters again. One solid burst. The gun pack on this will tear through anything as long as you get lined up nicely on a critical part of the airplane. The range doesn't matter as much. Obviously long range is not so effective, but short range like this, it's just mad because the bullets are firing straight down the line of the fuselage. You can get right up close and personal and your bullets don't go either side like they do in the aircraft with guns out on the wing edges. The trail of the two Spitfires here, closing in on 200 meters there. It's about 150 or 100. It's probably about 50 meters away before I open up. Goodbye Spit. And the leader of the Spits here, also very close, very quickly dispatched. Okay, now we're going to try some shots from a bit further back, now that I've demonstrated how deadly this thing is close in. And we're going to shoot at some of the sort of similar ranges to what we were using in both the Spit and the P-51. Got to slow down here. It doesn't like slowing down either, this aeroplane. So that's close to about 150. We're maybe on 200 meters there, close to 200 yards. So this is not a bad range to try this second Focke-Wulf. So yeah, he's just moving away from us a little bit too. We're a bit slow, which is good. And I'll get the pipper on. There we go. I'm pretty sure I got his tail section clean off. We'll move on to the lead of the Focke-Wulf. He's a bit further out even. Now this is getting probably close to 300, so let's give him a burst. I think we killed the pilot with that. He's certainly dropping out. And this is the benefit of having guns which are close in or straight down the nose of the aircraft. Moving on to Anton versus Anton now. Just on 300, closing in towards 200 meters now, and opening up from a little bit further out than we did with the Mustangs and the Spits. One quick burst for him as well. Then it's the turn of the lead Focke-Wulf to take a beating. Above 300 meters for that one, and that solid burst gave him a good walloping. Also destroyed. Closing in on the Messerschmitt 109 now. And we'll go with a little bit of range, about medium range. This looks at about 300 to me. We'll give him a burst. That was high, that entire burst, just hitting the top. That's good. Smack on the fuselage. And then we'll go nice and personal and close with this last one. So you can see the close in, no need to worry about massive amounts of deflection. We'll try and get this on the right of the fuselage there. There we go. Time to engage the pair of Messerschmitts at the front. Now, this is the second of the Messerschmitts. That was a short burst that wasn't very effective, but the second one caught him right on the fuselage and chopped his tail off. Now the lead and final Messerschmitt below 300 meters now, within 300 meters I should say. Now within 200 meters, a solid burst. A solid burst and both wings severed. There goes the pilot. Safety first. So this thing here has an incredibly good gun pack. A lot of that is to do with the orientation of the guns, straight down the nose or close in to the propeller. Everything is basically shooting exactly where you're pointing the aeroplane, and it's the least range dependent of the ones we've looked at in this test. So there you go. My opinion is that all of the guns on all of these aircraft are in fact very effective and can cause catastrophic failure to enemy aircraft if you get the range right. It's not just about how effective the guns are, it's about how many rounds you're actually landing and how many of those rounds are landing in the same place to cause maximum damage. During March, during the 2.5.6 open beta releases, the engine sounds for both the 109 and the 190s have been updated. Here's a couple of fly pasts just so you can listen to these gorgeous machines now. At the end of March, 9line posted a new screenshot that we've not seen before on the P47 section of the ED forums. This screenshot shows some of the air-to-air damage effects and the bullet strike effects which are being worked on and are hopefully soon to be released. I want to just compliment ED on the subtle nature of these new effects. This is a marked improvement to what we've seen previously, where the effects, I think, have been far too overblown. The large clouds of debris we've seen coming off and the very large sort of smoke puffs from bullet strikes were distracting, to say the least. And I think having this stuff all a bit more subtle and all a bit smaller and less obvious is a more realistic improvement. I think there's also frame rates that can be gained from pursuing this kind of philosophy to effects. Very large, high numbers of textures and particulates can be pretty heavy on the frame rates for some players. So to have all the stuff a lot more subtle, but still there, I think represents an improvement in terms of realism and in terms of playability. That concludes the updates video for March. Thanks for watching, everyone. As usual, happy hunting. I'll see you up there.